This is illegal. We're gonna go to jail for this.
Human cloning is illegal. This won't be human. Not entirely.
See? This is what happens when hipsters play God. Albeit they create a pretty fine fuck up.
So it's
only
good.
you would say that.
Yeah.
Something that started out as a cross between a naked rabbit and a kangaroo, and then later you want to fuck it.
Oh, come on, man. Let's be realistic here. Anything that's even maybe has the tiniest feminine characteristics that's in a dude's house with him alone long enough, he's going to fuck it. He's going to go, well, there's nobody around. I mean, what's it really going to hurt if I fuck it?
Exactly. Don't ask Corey about his tails with a vacuum cleaner. Right?
Yeah, I don't need an animal.
Don't loop me in. Don't link me with that.
Don't need to create anything.
Look, there's a hole. I gotta fuck it.
Yeah, exactly.
Do we have appliances in the house? I'm surprised I haven't electrocuted myself yet.
Can you imagine?
A box of donuts here.
Hey, man, if that vacuum cleaner had tits and was coming up to you, rubbing all up on you and stuff, you'd fuck it, too.
That vacuum cleaner was begging for it.
See when it was looking at me? I got a drink and everything.
It's kind of scary now. Corey's got this like hot Japanese anime girl painted on it.
But hey, at least Corey didn't have to clean himself afterwards.
That's true.
Self-cleaning.
Hey, and are you sure those guys were hipsters? Because it looked like they went and raided a Hot Topics store because they bought every single goddamn toy in that place.
Well, I don't know about toy, but Adrian Brody brought every T-shirt in that place. Yeah. I mean, I gotta give it to him. As hipsters go, he had a cool collection of T-shirts.
Yeah, no, I mean, they were the only scientists that I knew that still dressed like mall kids. Like, of course they messed up.
Yeah, you have to appreciate how him and his brother both had those very tailored ratty haircuts.
Yeah.
Well, that's a scientist thing, man. They're pretty hip. You got to wait.
I thought they were just trying to live like a Marilyn Manson like lyric or something.
Yeah, hip to be square.
It's funny because him and his brother look like Adam Sandler and Little Nicky.
Exactly.
Which that's sad that that's hip now.
Yeah, it's come full circle, man.
Wow, is that where that came from?
The origin of that messed up emo haircut. Nah, this is the classic tale of when scientists try to play God and they go off. And here we have Adrian Brody and Sarah Polley, who they're a couple also, and they on the verge of this of this great experiment of like creating DNA to
create new life forms.
That's what I was saying. Crossing DNA to create new life forms. Therefore, a big corporation that they work for will be able to patent all this stuff, and somehow, I don't know.
Yeah, they'll come up with medical breakthroughs. It already works on cattle, but they're like, yeah, but we could use some human DNA. We could start curing human diseases.
Yeah.
Yeah,
wait a minute.
Yeah.
So what could go wrong?
Keep your erections harder and longer.
I was
like
about to
that.
say, they'll create something that'll make more commercials at night. Will tell you, if you use this, you'll be bleeding from the ass, the eyes, the nose. You'll all of a sudden change sex.
Yeah, complications may happen if you breathe.
Grow wings, maybe a tail,
and gills.
Side effects include
diarrhea, and more diarrhea.
But it will make my dick bigger, right? Sign me up.
I'll take it.
As long as the diarrhea doesn't come while my dick is bigger, it sounds like we have a deal.
Hey, as long as diarrhea doesn't come out of my penis, I'll be fine.
Of course,
okay, that's enough.
Yeah. Of course, the unethical part of this experiment comes from the fact that they are using human DNA and crossing it with animal DNA, and in effect, they create this chimera-type being, which at first starts out. Well, let's just admit it. It looks like a cross between a baby and a dick.
It does.
Well, there's a lot of dick-looking creatures in this.
Yeah.
This whole thing.
No, that's one of my main things about this movie, which I don't know if it sometimes it's a complaint, and sometimes it's praise for this film. But yeah, they keep it as a pet. I mean, they know Adrian Brody's the one at first who's like, "This is wrong. This is going against." I mean, we can go to jail. Pretty much.
She's like, but I love little baby dickhead.
Yeah, it was Sarah Polley, who at first is like so against having children, she becomes immediately attached to this thing. This thing imprints on her, and they just treat it like, well, they start to treat it like a pet. Sarah Polley starts to treat it like a daughter. Yeah. And as it grows up, it's no longer looks like just a skinless or a hairless gerbil. It starts to resemble a child, albeit a deformed child, but they put in a dress, and it starts to learn very quickly. I mean, with a human intelligence. And
she turns into Bjork. That's I thought this was the story of Bjork when I was watching this film. I was like, this makes perfect sense.
I know it sounds like Bjork.
Yeah, I know. I was like, oh my God, I was tricked into seeing a movie about Bjork. They didn't have to trick me.
I would say that
I would have paid big time money for that.
this creature was a little bit more on key than Bjork is.
Hey, you hold your tongue there.
I know.
I'm going to donate your body to science
I
after
like
that.
Bjork's music like everybody else, but the bitch cannot sing on key.
No, I like the remix of Bjork stuff. Or hearing this creature sing. But
Everyone's a critic.
I swear.
no, I like Bjork. I would rather listen to it.
It's over, Corey. Get out.
All right.
But this, as this thing grows, it starts to like create tension between Sarah Polley and Adrian Brody because they both start to form their own attachment to it. But this creature starts to make its own attachment to each one of them, and at some point, you can already tell that it's going to turn bad for both of them.
Well, it's the kind of situation that starts out where you go, nothing good will come from this.
No, of course not. Well, everyone is telling them nothing good will come from this idea. So it's like it's a dick-headed creature with lots of dick moves going on. The reactions that both that they're having are so classically and obviously Freudian. I mean, it's like the basic. You take Psychology 101, you will go over this, and you could trace the plot of the movie by the stages that kids go and the way they feel about their parents. Except kids don't usually have like wings and giant claws and venom sacs and shit, so it doesn't turn quite this ugly.
Oh, I don't know, man. I know a lot of kids who have those venom sacs and fangs too. To me, with all the dickhead imagery and the so much about human psychology and creatures and gene splicing, it just felt like a love letter to David Cronenberg. It reminded me so much of the movies he used to make, and that's probably why even when at times this movie went too far, got kind of silly, it's kept winning me back because I was kind of in love with it. And this movie is kind of like a splice in itself because you look at it, oh, it's a horror movie. No, wait, it's a character study. No, wait, it's a thriller. And it's like, all right, well, I'm with it. And then it's like, no, this is back to being a horror movie again.
It all works in cycles, and it all works together at some point. I mean, when it does, and sometimes it doesn't, because a lot of you're just going to have to, it depends on how much you want to suspend your disbelief, because it makes sense at first, and there's tension in that they have to hide this creature, and you know that as it grows, it's going to be harder to hide it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a classic, almost like the E.T. thing. We have this creature, we got to hide it from everybody else, except there's more dire circumstances here. And there's a point, though, where, well, let's just face it, this thing becomes sort of fine. It looks pretty. It has no,
I'm sorry.
It has a hole.
I just can't go with you there.
No, here's what I'm saying is silly, because as far as movie monsters go, it's still a creature. It has somewhat of a pretty face if you just can skip that penis hole that's going down.
Well, you have to take out of context the plot of the movie and imagine that you're watching a different movie where it's like a member of an alien race.
Sure.
Right? And it's like, what's the problem? You don't want to fuck? Come on, what are you, prejudiced? And you'd be like, yeah, all right, yeah, I fuck her. Yeah, you would.
The only problem,
totally would nail that.
The only problem is that it almost borderlines on incestuous with this movie.
In this particular case,
in this particular movie, it really does, because the whole time you're like, dude, you like helped give birth to this thing. Now you're.
I'm just agreeing with Corey that it's fine.
Woody Allen might look at this and go and say, I don't see what the problem is. But I see a big problem.
I was about to say, honestly, I was thinking, man, what is this, like Woody Allen's first science fiction fucking
I would love to see this with Woody Allen instead of Adrian Brody, with her coming on to him, and he's like, well, I don't think that,
I don't see a problem with this.
Soon, she's one of my own, and I don't know what happened.
But this is you got to keep in mind that this thing is growing fast, and besides like the animal legs and maybe not having any hair and like a weird number of digits on his hands and toes.
And the important thing, the tits were too small.
Yeah.
Now we got one.
They still can't find a cure for that.
Man, this is wrong. It's disturbing. She was an A cup.
Yeah. I can balance that out. She doesn't speak English.
Good point.
Yeah, good point, huh? Yeah.
However, this thing is growing so fast that this is how I saw it. Now I have to admit, let's take out all the jokes where it says I will fuck anything. I was watching this and I was like, yeah, this is very disturbing. This is what I like about it. And what we're saying, people, the reason why you probably don't understand what we're trying to say here is because there's a moment in the movie where we don't really want to spoil it for you, but let's just say that this thing grows so fast And not just physically, but, somewhat with his hormones growing fast too. And it starts having a different sort of attraction towards Sarah Polley and Adrian Brody. And let's just say we didn't get to see that deleted scene where Adrian Brody was coming home from the bar and had those 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 beers and came home to the shack where they were keeping this creature. And I was like, you know what? She's not bad. She's actually kind of hot.
No, and that would have helped because, the movie does not contain that deleted scene. So you're left wondering, like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? And all of a sudden it becomes, like, really incestuous. And honestly, it's the one thing that almost pulled me way the hell out of the movie.
It's same here. I mean, when I first saw it, it yanked me out. I was like, man, I heard there was something silly in this movie. And up to that point, I was like, what's silly? I don't think this movie's cool. And I was like, oh, here we go.
I didn't find that to be silly at all. I was like, okay. I mean, first off, I buy it. I'm like, okay, I totally see that happening. I just pretended it was Corey instead of Adrian Brody. or Woody Allen, either way.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Woody Allen would buy this.
But then
He
I'm
wrote
like,
the script. What are you talking about?
Yeah, and then I'm like, okay, this is where it got really Cronenbergian.
True.
You have two reactions as a person watching this movie. You can either look at it like it's so silly that it's funny, the way little kids do in sex education class, or you can go, that's fucked up, and sit and realize how fucked up it really is.
I had both reactions. I mean, at first I was like, this is too much. I can't buy this. But then the aftermath of it, what they had to deal with, I was like, wow, this is even more fucked up than it was before.
Well, the thing is, I think people are going to be divided because at least when we were watching in our theater, there was like an uproarious, just laughter throughout the theater because people were just like, what the fuck? Come on.
I was laughing too, even as I was watching it, but I was still liking it on the level of going, wow.
By the way, Woody Allen would look at this and be like, what I did was human. That's an animal. You can't blame me.
So you're bringing incest and bestiality into this, Woody, huh? That's a great script, buddy. When do we start?
You gotta love Adrian Brody's excuse. He was like, well, hey, we've been breaking all the laws of nature up to now. What does it matter what I did?
At this point,
why are you mad at me?
Scientists got to get laid, son.
Can you blame me? Look at it.
I know at this point he was probably like, fuck it, we lost our funding. We're going to jail. I'm not going to get laid except by maybe raped by a guy. I'm getting mine before I go.
I'm going out fucking.
If that was Han Solo in the Cantina bar and he saw that thing there, he would have fucked that thing sideways.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay?
Captain Kirk would have fucked that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, and everyone would be like, you go. So let's face it, it's not the problem isn't with how it looks, it's what it actually is
and
that's
you know what?
creepy.
Yeah, that does make it creepy.
Well, Leon, I was the one that told you that it was silly, so I totally acknowledge that. And to me, it is a scene where to some people it works, to some people it doesn't. For me, it's kind of in both areas. I see it as silly. I think maybe that's something that I probably would not have done myself if I was making this movie, but while it's there, it did give me a reaction. I had to think about it. I was like, you know what? I'm not completely laughing because this is funny. I'm completely laughing because it's a nervous laughter. I mean, this is wrong, and I'm thinking about what's going to happen when it's done.
Right.
Well, the situation that happens after that is even crazier because, and I think that's why some of us we're still drawn into it because all of a sudden it started to play out like a bad soap opera, but with Bjork and her monster legs. But I mean, yeah, because I was like, then all of a sudden as soon as that silly scene happened, I was reinvested because I'm like, oh no, this can't be happening now. Oh fuck! Now what's gonna happen? No, if somebody would have turned that film off, I would have been pissed off. I would have went to the projection and started beating him up and put it back on, push play on that motherfucker.
Starting to feel like a criminal.
Scientists push boundaries. It's the important ones do.
Yeah, sticking to a few rules isn't always such a bad idea either, you know.
Nobody is going to care about a few rules after they see what we have made.
See what we've made? Is that what you just said?
Yeah.
Nobody can see what we made.
You know what, co-host, you outlined like one of the best elements of this movie is that it's unpredictable. I mean, the whole time watching it, I didn't know what they were going to do next. And I think also it really worked for me on the level of being a character study, which you have two good actors who are able to take this premise, which might be silly at some point, but they make it believable. And it's interesting to watch these characters where they start as this happy couple who are getting into something that they shouldn't, and it seems like they think they have control over it. But psychologically, it really takes on its own legs. You find out more about them, and then by the end of it, you find out that they're different people than they thought they were.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that really makes this movie work too. I mean, amongst all the other things that they managed to blend in, which for me worked more often than not, there were only a few parts where because like this director, I'm trying to see his name. Do anybody know the director's name?
David Cronenberg Jr.
Jr.
All I know is the guy directed Cube.
Cube.
Yeah.
That's right.
Which apparently,
really?
Yeah,
which
the first Cube.
Okay,
which
all right,
originally
good one.
this movie was supposed to be Cube Part 2.
Really?
Yeah, when he was writing it.
Really?
And then
I didn't know that.
And then it evolved into this story
How is
somehow.
this-
Must have been a big evolution.
No, it was,
he fused
yeah.
it with human DNA.
Well, the directing this, he has, you can tell he has a love for Cronenberg because they create creatures that are just nothing but mounds of flesh. If you've seen Rabbit, that's what this movie reminded me of. People say The Fly, but Rabbit had the whole, not Rabbit, but Rabbit.
Rabbit, his first movie.
Yeah, it had that whole thing of genitalia being able to kill because like there were things that looked like vaginas with spikes or little things coming out of it, and like one of the things that they have in here is like that. They create these creatures that have these little spikes that come out of it, and they look like ball sacks, a cross between ball sacks and vaginas.
I
There's a
thought they
lot
looked
of
like
reminiscence.
livers with vaginas. All kind of melted.
There's a lot of reminiscent stuff from his movies. There's a lot of stuff from The Brood in here, but really, I felt like overall, The Fly was where they got a lot of the feeling from it. At least the way some of the plot developed in here. And I mean, it doesn't feel like it's ripping it off. It feels more like a tribute to it, if anything. And it achieves the thing that Cronenberg is so good at, which is what's important to note, which is that kind of body horror that really just makes you feel like squirming out of your own skin as you're watching it, and yet you admire their capacity to do that to you. Because with most horror and stuff today, we're so jaded, it doesn't scare us or freak us out. This freaks us out watching
And
it.
I really appreciated that. I mean, like, this is what everything I always want from a horror movie, where it's like, hey, don't just try to, scare me with jump scares or paranoia, but, get into the psychology of what's going on.
Yeah,
here.
make me think a little. I mean, the downside is that, and this is true in Cronenberg films as well, is that the sci-fi part, the science of it is really silly.
Yes.
I mean, it's like they barely try to make it like fit actual science. And Cronenberg makes it work by being so much more science fiction-y with those elements, like getting to the minutia of like really weird shit going around the fringes. This tries so hard to make it feel like it's really happening that sometimes you can't help but go, come on.
Yeah, and that's done masterfully by montages where you just see people looking at beakers going, yes, with quick music, and I almost want to see a banner in the back saying "Super Science."
Science!
Yeah.
Well, so they're able to carry even some of the most unbelievable parts of this movie because they are believable themselves.
Yeah.
And what makes them believable is that this creature starts to actually come between their relationship. And it's not focused on the science or the horror or anything else like that. It becomes a movie where it's like two human beings who are kind of pitted against each other emotionally because of this one thing right here. And I really admired that. What was the director's name again? Because you just named it.
It's the guy who directed Q.
Yeah.
It's like
there you go. That's how we should change his name.
That's his official name.
Vincenzo Natali? Is that?
No,
Yeah, that's his name. That's
even
his
though
name.
I like that name, Vincenzo Natali. Yeah, that is his name.
That's what he just said.
Thank you.
You just pronounced it wrong, Troy. I
know.
You put the accent in the wrong place. That's all.
Fettuccine Bellini.
Hey, you and I, Adrian Brody and Sarah Paul, and his name has become between us. No, I just thought.
It's kind of like you see a happy couple, and it's the breakdown of their marriage. But like this thing is what's caused it. But it's something that would have happened
Anyway.
by something else.
But something else. And this director, why I agree with you. I just have to say, there are moments when I say he ripped off, what's his name, Cronenberg. I want to call him everything but
David Cronenberg?
David, I want to call him Peter James. David Cronenberg. There are just moments where he just pushed it to the point where I thought, like, okay, you need to pull back on the Cronenberg thing. Gotta be your own man here. But I really did enjoy the movie, and I don't want to forget to mention the actual chick that played the creature, who they called Dren, which is backwards for nerd. You
Right.
know, remind me of that. It's a
And
French
on Farscape,
actress.
it means shit.
I'm not even get her name. I can tell you that right now. But Delphine Chaniac. She's a French actress, and I only had like bit parts. I thought I say bitch parts, but
Oh, she
bit
had
parts
some
before
bitch
this.
parts.
Oh, in this movie, she sure as hell did. Right down to having like tails and everything. But no, she's had bit parts in movies, and I think this is going to be one of the movies that make people take notice of how beautiful a girl she is, because hey, when you make somebody look this crazy, when you pull back, you be like, oh, she ain't that bad looking after all. She doesn't look like a dickhead. So you said we get to the ratings. I know that there are going to be a lot of people who are just not going to accept the level of absurdity that this movie goes to, but to me, it all worked. And just let me know that this thing like grew up so fast that these two characters didn't know how to handle it, and it just messed them up in all kind of emotional ways. And I kind of like that, so I'm gonna give this a matinee.
Yeah, I think we're more or less on the same page. I mean, I don't agree with you that he's so much ripped off Cronenberg, like I said, as much as was really trying to attribute him. But really, even Cronenberg isn't doing Cronenberg anymore in the way that people usually describe that as a adjective. So, this
You be Cronenberg.
I know. So this is, I mean, it's a lot of fun, and it's disturbing in that fun way, and it's sick in that fun way, and it's sexy in that fun way. And the CG, which we never mentioned, is amazing at points.
Thank you for bringing that up, man, because I thought, especially when Dren is a child, I thought when she came out, I was like, man, this is incredible.
Yeah, it's really great. Some of the best ever CG with humans there, like in full bright light I've ever seen. But it has its weaknesses. It has slow, boring parts. It has points that are so predictable you can't believe it. And so I'm going to have to give it a matinee. I feel like with a little more work, it could have been a full price, but.
That's the same sentiment I have, but just with a few tweaks, it could have been a full price for me. I mean, I know that, it's going to be divided. It's going to be polarizing. Some people are going to hate it, think it's stupid. At the rest, go keep breathing out your mouth. I don't need to hear from you. I personally love this movie, and it made me, we talk about Cronenberg, it made me realize how much I miss those movies, because nobody's making those anymore. So, hey, I mean, you want to call it a ripoff, that's fine, but I'm just like, I'm happy somebody's doing it.
No way, I'm jumping on me. I just said a small part of it
you
was
want
a
to be an
ripoff.
asshole about it.
Hey, can you guys rewind that tape? I heard you say it, Corey.
But that said, great acting. I was never bored, because whenever stuff wasn't happening, stuff was happening. It was just more on the level, like I said, the character study, the psychological drama, and to me, just the scenes with the wings. Something about that, like they spent a lot of money to make that effect happen, and yet those are scenes that took me out of it the most. But I give it a matinee, just like you guys.
Oh, that's the scene with the wings took you out of it?
Yes.
Okay, I thought you said that's what you really
No.
liked.
Every time the wings popped, it just
Okay.
It was because they left all that Red Bull lying around. Our new sponsor.
Ignore him.
That's not a pun.
Splice your tongue so you can't talk anymore.
It's not a pun.
Go
Man,
home.
Jesus.
Stop punishing us.
See, now that is a pun.
Oh, you like that?
Virus.
Awesome. You like that, yeah? You loved it, right? Anyway, no, this movie was perversions of science, and I had my mind was going back and forth, going, what the hell what is this movie trying to teach me? What should I be learning here? But I did enjoy the acting. I did like that it was a throwback to those fucked up 80s type films where, there's some kind of meaning behind this hidden perversion of science that's happening on screen, that takes you back to Cronenberg. But on top of that, hey, it's about parenthood, it's about incest, it's about bestiality, and the big message is don't fucking do it. So, and the thing is,
Pretty simple message.
But it was fun to watch, even during the silly part that a lot of people are going to be divided on. But I'm going to give it a matinee because, hey, you don't fucking see this movie every day.
Yeah.
You don't.
So I applaud the guys for them trying to do something next time. Just make it a little bit more believable. Like instead of two hot topic loving scientists, make them like old man scientists, because that would really scare the shit out of me. Trying to see a bunch of old guys do what they do with their fucking
then you could have had Woody Allen
penis head
fucking it.
woman.
Yeah, there you go. You can hire Woody Allen at
Hey,
this
that's
point.
even a better idea.
Yeah.
I mean, really, after a month of forgettable movies that I still can barely remember, this is one that's going to stick with me.
Yeah. No, I'm
Not just because it had monster titties.
Well, it's funny because, and by the way, I'm enjoying it. As we're talking about how wrong this is, how bad this is, and you were giving me shit about this creature, like, man, that creature, that's just wrong for you to look at that creature as sexually attractive.
Yes, because
like,
the tits were too small.
Yeah, it's like, hey, they have science to fix that. You figure, come on.
I mean, out of all the science in this world, you can't consider this thing can have like a breast enlargement.
Yeah.
Oh, if it had one.
Well, hey, guys, don't worry, because that'll all be covered in the sequel, Splicers 2 Electric Boogaloo, starring Roman Polanski and Woody Allen. There you go.
Plus, the creature's a minor. You can't. That's wrong to give a minor a boob job. Come on.
But she got that adult body on her. I just like the way Leon just like, this science is wrong. That's an A cup.
Hey, man.
Perversions.
You know what Wyatt said? Anything more than a handful, you're risking a sprained forked tongue.
Maybe the breasts were on its head. Maybe that's why. Maybe we just didn't catch that.
Well, then you can wear your
We
bra
didn't see
under
those
that,
nipples
yeah.
in the back of the head.
Yeah, they killed her off before she could fully develop.
Yeah.
She has 8 vaginas. I'll take it.
She's become unstable.
This is the disaster everyone warns about. A new species set loose in the world.